Don't forget to purchase your copy of David White's new book, Shades of Blue. You can contact David, and it is at david@saveassociation.com, or you can contact him via Twitter, and that is David_White7.
Hi guys, it's Ray here from Man City Fan TV. Just want to start this video off by saying a big thank you to everybody who contributed at the Arsenal game. I think we had about 40 interviews before and after the game. Sorry we couldn't include everybody, it's just far too many to include in the content we put out on YouTube. And also thanks to the guys on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter who've been following up on what's happened after the Arsenal game. Lots of great comments, and both Andy and I have been really pleased with the feedback, such positive feedback. And yeah, it just gives us, as I said before, that motivation and that energy and that buzz to just keep on doing stuff. And speaking personally, I had an absolutely fabulous day out in North London on Sunday. Now, speaking of North London, the video today, the subject matter is Spurs and the Spurs game against City on the 28th of October later on this year. Now, you might think, blimey, that game's 2 months away. Why are you going to talk about it now? Well, I think it is really important to talk about this game because of the problems with Spurs Stadium. About a week or 10 days ago, I saw a video posted, I think it was on Twitter, and it was from a Gooner fan, an Arsenal fan, and he was a construction worker. He was working on the site of the new White Hart Lane Stadium that's currently being built, and he's having a laugh, but he made an important point that he felt that the stadium had absolutely no chance of being ready for Spurs home games this season. It certainly wasn't ready at the start of the season, and it looks like it's not going to be ready for quite a few weeks or even months. Since it's not going to be ready at the start of the season, Spurs had already agreed with the I think the FA Premier League that they'd continue playing at Wembley. They'd done a deal with the FA as well for them to carry on playing at Wembley for the first couple of games of the season, first couple of home matches. And then after the international break, the idea was, I think the first home game would be in the 15th of September, something like that, against Liverpool. The idea would be that they'd go and play that game back at the new developed White Hart Lane. Now, I think the FA and the Premier League have already bent over backwards for Spurs this season. They've already, let's say, amended or bent this rule that they have, the Premier League. They have this rule that wherever you start your home games in the season, then that's where you've got to play all your home games for the rest of the season. In the past, when clubs have struggled to finish building the stadium or get to the safety certificates that they need to operate the stadium, they've played the first 2 or 3 games away from home, and that's been sanctioned by the FA, Premier League, or whoever is in charge of these things these days. I think I said a few months ago, I could foresee problems. Things never run on time generally, and this is a big project. And I could see the FA the Premier League have already bent over for Spurs. They made this small contingency plan. But if there was any sort of delay, then what was going to happen? And I just couldn't see it working the way that Spurs wanted to. I believe once Spurs realised that there was going to be a problem in completing the stadium on time and getting all the safety certificates that are required, they wanted to stay at Wembley for longer and play more of their home games there. But then this comes up with a problem because you've got a already booked date. The 28th of October is already booked at Wembley to be used for an NFL game, an American football game. And that's also the date of the fixture against Manchester City. And I believe Sky have changed it to that date. And there's going to be a lot of people really unhappy about this problem that Spurs have caused themselves. Now, many City fans, once the fixture was changed by Sky, would have gone out and sorted out their travel, paid for their accommodation, and any change of fixture date or even location can be a potential problem for these City fans, and they'll certainly be out of pocket. Once Spurs found out that they couldn't use Wembley on the 28th, they've looked at, apparently they've been looking at various different alternative options. Now, one of them, they've apparently approached the Premier League and asked them if they can switch the away game, City's away game, into a home fixture and play the game at Etihad Stadium. Now, personally, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. It really does affect the integrity of the competition, and it's really unfair for City would end up finishing the season, I think, with 4 away games out of the last 5 games. That's patently unfair on City, and I think Spurs would end up having 4 home games in the last 5 of the season, which is extremely unfair for all the other teams and a real big bonus to Spurs. Now, there's also talk of using Twickenham for that particular home game against City, and that's actually, I think, a bigger stadium. It has a bigger capacity than the new White Hart Lane, which is just over 62,000. Now that poses another problem yet again, because that would end up being the 3rd home stadium that Spurs would have used in the season, and that's just not fair. And as I said, it affects the integrity of the competition. It's not fair on City fans and any other team in the league. Another option is to Spurs are looking at is to postpone the game and play it later in the season. Once again, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. It's not fair on City, it's not fair on our fans. I mean, City would end up then potentially having a fixture backlog, and we'd end up squeezing a game in when we shouldn't somewhere. You know, we've got the Champions League fixtures to think about, we'll have cups and everything else, and it's unfair to make City reschedule this game. It's absolutely unfair. As I said, I'll repeat it many times in this video, it affects the integrity of the competition. Another option that's been mentioned is to reschedule the game to the day before, so they actually play it before the NFL game at Wembley. Once again, this is, I think Sky is certainly not going to be happy because they're the big decision makers in fixture dates and times these days, with all the money that they pump into the game, them and BT. And also, as I repeat, it's unfair on City fans who've maybe gone out and booked accommodation and travel already. I mean, we plan far ahead, and as soon as we notified of fixture changes, people start booking accommodation and travel. Now, Spurs have come out and issued a statement. Delays are common, certainly for bills this size and complexity. However, we are hugely frustrated that this has occurred at such a late stage. Whilst we would have been able to mitigate other areas, we simply cannot compromise safety. This decision was unavoidable. What the solution is to this problem, I honestly couldn't tell you. I really don't know, because I don't think whatever solution they come up with is going to satisfy everybody. There's always going to be somebody unhappy. I mean, right now the Spurs fans are up in arms anyway. They've been really, they feel hard done by, because many people have paid an extra couple of £100 or so for a season ticket this season. Some people, I believe, have been enticed into buying a season ticket for this season, for the new ground, and they're just not going to be there. So, should Spurs be punished for this lack of foresight, or potentially, I mean, you could look at it another way, greed? I mean, they were so desperate to get back into White Hart Lane that they've compromised themselves, trying to squeeze a project like this into a shorter time space as possible. I'm not sure if they're going to make extra money by being at White Hart Lane. I suppose they're having to pay Wembley something to actually use the ground, and I'm not sure if they actually make extra money by being at White Hart Lane. I'm just supposing that will be the case, and obviously they want to be back at their new home. That will be their new home, and that will try to make it a fortress and more comfortable for the players, and so that they can adapt quicker. But they should have seen this. They could have seen this coming. I mean, I was worried myself, and I'm not even following the project. It's a massive project. The best part of £1 billion, 800, 900 million pound project. It's a huge project, and to try and squeeze it into such a small time frame was going to be very tight. So they should have expected a problem. They made a small contingency in case it ran over by a few weeks, but they really should have had better plans in place. For me personally, what they should have done was agree to stay at Wembley for the full season and been their main tenants, and the NFL could have used it on the weeks that Spurs weren't there, and that would have been a much better solution, a much more sensible solution, possibly a less profitable solution, because I don't think you'd have got as many Spurs fans buying season tickets if they were going to be playing the full season at Wembley. So I think it's a problem caused by Spurs. It's of their own making, and I actually think they should be punished for this. So how could they be punished? I think the FA Premier League should really make an example of Spurs. I mean, what I'm going to propose, you might think is quite harsh, an overreaction and punitive and a bit of football tribalism. But I really think they should just go and fine Spurs, slap them with a £2 or £3 million fine. And if the game has to be played at another venue or postponed or delayed or whatever, then I think they should use that money to compensate the City fans. At least make sure that we're not actually paying the 30 quid for these away tickets. And anybody who's lost out on by paying for accommodation and travel and that can't be refunded, they should be reimbursed out of a fine that the FA Premier League imposed upon Spurs. Now, they could go one step further, and I think this is a really drastic measure, but maybe it will stop other teams, some other clubs from going down the same route and trying to be greedy or whatever the reasons are for this delay, and actually dock Spurs some points. Dock them 3 points. That will teach them a lesson, and I think that will deter anybody else from going down a similar route in the future. And finally, I just want to finish by quoting the FA Premier League Executive Chairman Richard Scudamore, who in 2015 said they'd have to play in the same stadium for the entire year, for the integrity of the competition. You can't have 19 home games with 10 played at MK Dons and 9 at Wembley. It's completely unfair. That won't be allowed. So what's changed now? Guys, if you like the video, please click like, and if you haven't subscribed to our channel, what's stopping you? It's dead easy. Just click like, hit the bell icon so you're notified as soon as we've put out new videos, and you can get our content immediately. And if you haven't checked out David White's book, please have a look. It's only £20. Andy's out there interviewing David White again today. It's a second interview with him because he's just got so much to say, so many stories about his career and afterwards. And I think it's really well worth checking it out. And David is gonna, if you're in the UK, David's gonna post it out free of charge, no postage for that. And he's actually signing copies as well. See you around, Blues.
Don't forget to purchase your copy of David White's new book, Shades of Blue. You can contact David, and it is at david@saveassociation.com, or you can contact him via Twitter, and that is David_White7.